I have so much shame and I cannot be seen and I'm a fuck up and I'll just spend the rest of my life from now on trying to redeem all of this. It's one thing if you ever have to like let go of staff or change your team because of performance of how they're showing up. It's a very different thing when you have those conversations because you fucked up. That sits with you.
All right, Graeme Barlow, welcome to Beyond Fulfillment.
Thanks, Dave. Excited to be here.
Yes, sir. Excited to have you on the show. So, Graeme, you are a serial entrepreneur, and you have been for the last 20 plus years. You've sold 4 companies and started and invested in many others. And your first exit happened just after you got your driver's license, which is way earlier than most. So just to set the stage for our listeners, can you talk about your backstory and how you became an entrepreneur?
Yeah, absolutely. I got into entrepreneurship before I knew what that word meant or what it was even to build a company. We got into it early days in 2000 when I was trying to justify playing way more video games as a kid. And so started selling items from different games we were playing on eBay. That led us to learning how to write basic bots, to building more bots, to ultimately in 2006, I think we were one of the largest bot networks in the world, farming currency in every game imaginable at the time, from Neopets to Diablo 1, Diablo 2, World of Warcraft. And then, managed to squeeze an exit out of that near the end of 2006. For just under $1 million, split between the group of us. Was a pretty crazy introduction into the world of entrepreneurship and building companies. And then from there, tried to go to school, tried to be an adult, kind of sucked at that. So started a bunch of things that didn't really go anywhere, and then ended up co-founding a company called Rocket Owl. We built games on Facebook at the height of Zynga and Farmville, and went through, I think, every extreme version of highs and lows of entrepreneurship you can imagine in a 3-year period. We raised capital. That went crazy fast. Struggled to get the game launched. That was a challenge. Then got launched, got featured by Facebook, got on the homepage. Our player base like 10x'd in 48 hours, which blew up every server we had. And we went down for a week and then went through the whole journey of like scaling the team up to about 40, over 1 million players using the game. And then weren't able to sustain the growth that we wanted. So scaled the team from 40 back to 6, and then got an exit to private equity for a lot of the underlying technology that we had. So that was a wild ride and a pretty good ego check. From there, spent a few years working with private equity to run their early stage investment fund. Co-founded a company called ProPet Software in the pet industry. Think dog walkers, daycares, groomers, that kind of stuff. We've scaled that company to over 5 million customers globally. And then about 10 years ago, joined as a partner in a custom software development company, scaled that to 8 figures, doing everything from mobile healthcare solutions to augmented reality tooling for the NFL. It was pretty crazy ride. About 3 years ago, I got super frustrated with the state of entrepreneurial communities and loving the paid ones, had been in all of them, hating the free ones. And so we started a free founder community called FounderLink. We host dinners all over the world every month to bring founders together to connect, share stories, and learn from each other. And around the same time, got super frustrated with all the kids I've seen pop up on TikTok offering coaching that had never built a company in their lives. So got involved a little bit in founder coaching. So today, I split my time. I work very closely with Dan Martell at Martell Ventures. We oversee their AI portfolio for growth. I spend a day a week coaching high growth founders in the kind of 0 to 1 million and 1 million to 10 million range. And then a day a week is focused on community building and board work.
Okay. Wow. So appreciate the high level intro there. And there's a whole lot to unpack. So let's just go back to the beginning. So you said that you became an entrepreneur before you even knew what it meant. And you first started kind of selling products from video games to justify all the time that you spent gaming. So, I mean, you're like a young kid, adolescent, right? Playing video games like many, and you just have this desire to do some business, start a business, start selling stuff. So when that actually starts to take off, and right, you're doing this is like in the early days of eBay, sounds like, right?
Yep.
Where
early days of eBay, early days of PayPal, early days of online where the concept that you would sell a digital thing of pixels and then like arrange a time to meet in game and hand it off was insane.
Yeah, I mean, so when you start doing that and you're actually making now real money, I mean, what's that like as a young kid that just had this crazy idea and just took action?
A lot less like glamorous than it kind of feels like it should have been looking back on it, right? At the time, it was entirely a justification to play way more video games. And there really weren't particularly good rails, especially if you were underage, to be able to move money from the internet to banks, especially in Canada. So like we had a bunch of money on the internet and we were super rich internet money, but it felt very constrained because there wasn't a whole lot we could do with it outside of that. And none of us were old enough to like actually tie it to bank accounts to pull it out. So it was a weird time where we just got to be like super rich millionaires in every game that we were playing. Like we were top of the charts for everything and got to bankroll guilds and things like that. But I would say it was not kind of the same as if you were killing it in e-commerce or other things today. Because everyone is still figuring this stuff out.
Okay. Wow. So I mean, and at that time too, so you have the money, it's in the platform.
Some
You
different
can't really
weird PayPal accounts that are not authenticated properly. There was a lot of shenanigans that goes into like 13-year-olds setting up PayPal on the internet at that time.
I mean, did you tell your parents?
They were aware we were doing stuff online and like I was able to show some of the value for it, but honestly, it was split across a group of like 7 of us that were doing it together. So like at any given one time, most of us were just using it to pump money back into buy other stuff we wanted in the games or buy more bots or buy more hardware. And so it was all consuming and that I spent all my time and all my life that I could online and dealing with this stuff, but it was not a huge day-to-day thing.
All right. And so eventually that turns into building bots and that ultimately resulted in your first exit. How did that all unfold?
Fun sequence of events in that around the same time, there's a lot of change happening in the US around what cyber law was and what constituted cyber crimes versus didn't. And there's some gray area around like terms of service violations. There were a couple groups at the time that were selling bots from some of the big games. This was starting to pop up in 2006, became a bigger thing in 07, 08. And some question of like, could you face prison time for those things? Could there be criminal charges for doing this stuff? And so we were doing enough volume that we got a notice. We had enough accounts getting banned on a regular basis. We got notice that there was a cease and desist and they were looking at other actions that they could take against us. And we'd had a partnership with a Chinese company for probably about a year at the time that was selling currency back into the North American market. And so we ended up reaching out and just being like, hey, we think we're going to shut everything down. Do you want our accounts? Do you want our code? Do you want our currency? We need out one transaction. Let's go. And cut a deal that way. And that was kind of the extent of the exit was essentially a liquidation of the assets and moving on.
All right. And so even with that, you kind of getting some cease and desist and it looks like you could get in some real trouble. So you guys all decide to jump
Run
ship.
away.
But even liquidating what you had, right? You walked away with a nice chunk of money for a teenager.
Oh, yeah. It was, again, it was good money, but it was still tied to PayPal accounts that were questionably set up at the time. And so access to capital, access to the ability to do much with it other than just like keep cycling it and spending it on the internet, not super helpful. And like none of us knew anything about taxes or CRA or the IRS or any of that. So like it was run exactly how you expect a bunch of kids to run something that did not know they were doing a company or were doing anything. We were just doing stupid stuff on the internet. So it was great for building infinite confidence and infinite foundation for like, this is cool. I literally did not know the word entrepreneurship until I got to university, got involved in an entrepreneurship group called Impact at Waterloo, met other founders and was like, oh, these are my people. This is what I want to do. This is literally up until that point, I was like going into political science and I was going to go to a job at the government. Like it had not landed at all that this was a thing you could actually do like long term.
Hey, let me tell you about Max Capital Hub. If you're an entrepreneur trying to get funding, but your credit's holding you back, these are the people to call. They do business loans, business funding, and they'll actually help you clean up your credit so you qualify for more. They're not just handing you paperwork, their team builds an actual strategy around your business. So if you've been stuck or the bank has told you no, give Max Capital Hub a call or book a free consultation at maxcapitalhub.com. Tell them I sent you. Yeah, so that's interesting, right? Because you have this innate entrepreneurial spirit inside you and you don't even know what it is, but you're just acting out based, following your gut.
Yeah.
You do the college thing like so many are conditioned to do, right? You're going down the political science route, and then you meet other founders in university, and then it dawns on you that this is a thing. And then you mentioned too, right? You started a bunch of things that didn't go anywhere before you found your next success.
Yeah. So I had a bunch of ideas once I started meeting other people, like what I wanted to build as the next unicorn. And so I ended up dropping out in my second semester to go found a company called Viewin. And there's this whole plan behind it. It was like people would watch ads, and every ad you watch got you a lottery ticket, and we do $1 million lottery every month. And like it was this whole thing that kind of went nowhere after I spent a bunch of money trying to build it. And because I'd never built software in any meaningful way, pivoted that into a marketing company. The marketing company got me a bunch of introductions. Those introductions ultimately led to the group that founded Rocket Owl together. And that was kind of the first time I was like, okay, this is a thing. I think I was 20 when we raised our pre-seed round for Rocket Owl. I was the youngest in the founding group by 20 years, which is pretty cool. I get to learn from a bunch of incredible people. And Rocket Owl was the first real like adult company that we did that had incorporation and proper structure and cap table and employees, and learned so much. I would say the first year and a half, 2 years of that, I think I was fairly insufferable as a like cocky 20 something who had never lost, and then realizing that not everything goes up into the right forever was incredibly valuable.
All right. So even before you get to Rocket Owl, right, when you had that first startup that it didn't work out, right, even at that time, right, were you discouraged? Do you ever think about giving up, or were you just straight on to the next thing?
At that time, straight on to the next thing. I would say around the end of Rocket Owl was a very, very, very dark period for me where I almost walked away from everything. There have been a few phases in the entrepreneurial journey where we've made either big bets or just gone through very hard times where part of me has been like, it would be so much easier to just like put blinders on and go have a job somewhere. But yeah, it's never been where I've landed.
Okay. All right. So Rocket Owl is the one where you said you experienced all ends of the spectrum within a short period of time, right? The highs and lows, right?
Yeah.
Raised a bunch of money. And then, so you said you realized not everything goes up into the right forever. So when was the first time where things like shit really hit the fan?
Yeah. Well, so we were kind of gaming, darling. Everything was going super well. We had a game that people were starting to really like, but the revenue from the game wasn't moving as fast as we wanted. We refused to run ads, which in hindsight was stupid. So to support that, we set up what would have been kind of a Series A investment with a group of investors. It had tranches to the investment that were coming in. We bet heavily on like this investment's going to give us everything we need to go forward. So like keep pushing, high momentum, hire the people we need to do, spend what we need to on ads. And then ultimately that investment fell through. They missed the first tranche payment, but it just said they would double up on the second. When it came to the second one, they said ultimately their fund wasn't just placing money anymore and they were walking away. At that point, I think we had all put in everything we possibly could from our own personal amount. We had asked staff to take pay reductions. We had skipped a payroll. We had done like all the things to extend and bridge and push that we could possibly do because we said this was coming and that was going to unlock the next step of growth. Standing in front of an entire team and sharing that you fucked up, and because of that, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs and you have to repivot, was a pretty humbling experience at 23. I think one of the hardest parts of that for me was at the time, my entire identity, my entire sense of self and who I was and what I was tied directly to the balance sheet and the growth of Rocket Owl. And so going through that and then having to reshape the narrative and then figure out how we could like find an exit for the technology that we had created and part of the game at a time when we had kind of crested and mobile gaming was taking off and Facebook gaming wasn't. And we had built our whole stack on ActionScript and Flash. There was just a lot of things that landed at once. It was just like, oh my God, I am not who I thought I was, and this is not going the way I thought it would go. That was probably one of the most challenging experiences I've been through from a business perspective. And like, we've done more like that since. We had a pretty rough experience in the Iversoft growth phase too, where we had gone really broad. We'd acquired a bunch of companies. We had a vision of like, we were going to be the digital agency for everything, and then got a year into it and realized we'd gone way too broad. We'd spread ourselves way too thin. And the right thing to do was going to be refocus, get more disciplined. But as a result, we had to let go of 20 people and fire a bunch of clients and get leaner and more focused. Ultimately, that was a great decision that ended up to like triple the business in 24 months. But those moments live with you forever when you make those decisions and it impacts people. And it's one thing if you ever have to like let go of staff or change your team because of performance of how they're showing up. It's a very different thing when you have those conversations because you fucked up. That sits with you.
Yeah, so let's dig into that because that's heavy. So first of all, you have this commitment from this fund that they're going to invest, and you guys are like tripling down, like this is going to be it. This is what it's going to do. So you commit to more ads and all those other expenses, and the fund tells you the money's coming, and the money doesn't come. And then you guys put in everything you have. You, like you said, you skip a payroll, which that's, you know, you like, and how big was the staff at this time?
Just under 40.
Okay. All right. And then, so even within the company, right, when that happens, they have to know like something is not right.
We did it on all hands, we said. And like what the crazy and crushing part is we had the conversation. We're like, hey, here's where it is. If this doesn't make sense for you guys, like walk away. Like we don't have an answer, but here's what we're planning to do. Every single person stayed. Every single person doubled down on the bet, which was hard when it doesn't work.
Yeah, and then it still doesn't work. The money doesn't come, and then, like you said, you're sitting in front of that whole group as a 23-year-old. So talk about like trial by fire and really growing up quick in business, right?
Yeah.
Having to tell all these, you're probably younger than most of these people too. Having to tell all them that, yeah, I fucked up, and that therefore we're going to have to let you go. So when that's happened, like you said, your whole identity was tied to this business success and the balance sheet and this kind of what you had done previously. You said you're kind of cocky. Like when something like that happens and humbles you, like what's the mental conversation like?
It's pretty dark, to be honest. Prior to that, so like say 6 months before that, I was on stages all the time. I was on panels all the time. I was talking to people. We were doing media stuff nonstop. After that conversation, I don't think I got on another stage for 3 years. I just disappeared from community events and everything because it was just like, I have so much shame and I cannot be seen and I'm a fuck up and I'll just spend the rest of my life from now on trying to redeem all of this. And like, it was a rough ride navigating that. Even after getting to a outcome that was positive, the path back is rough. And a lot of the mental narrative is just like, you should have made different decisions. This is all on you. It's crazy because like one of my favorite things about Silicon Valley and the whole ecosystem around SF and the tech community there, which I've now been fortunate to spend a lot of time around, is like failure is celebrated, right? Failure is a positive because it moves you forward. You learn a lot more from your failures than you do from your successes. Having lived through a lot of failure, I can absolutely say that is true. I don't think we have a great version of that culture in Canada. And it's one of the things that we see in a lot of the tech ecosystems here is like, if you miss your shot, there's kind of a sentiment like, meh, you had a pass, you're kind of done. On to the next batch. And trying to reconcile that in Ottawa at the time was hard. There's standouts and there's people that will still bet and believe, but as a culture and as a community, we're not great at it. We like to kind of paint people with a brush. Whereas like now, looking back, I infinitely prefer investing in second, third, fourth time founders, because you've already spent the pain, misery, and suffering learning the easy lessons the first few times around. So like the odds of success go up dramatically, and the data backs us up of like second and third time founders are just better, well-rounded founders than first-time founders. There's always the like unicorn exceptions, but what you learn through that process is huge.
If you're still trying to hire locally for every role on your team, you're leaving serious money on the table. Ocean's Talent places AI-fluent executive operators. We're talking finance, marketing, operations, EAs, fully vetted, full-time, and dedicated to your business. These aren't freelancers or shared resources. They're U.S. caliber talent at a fraction of the cost, backed by a 3-month guarantee. And right now, Beyond Fulfillment listeners get $1,000 off their first hire. Go to oceanstalent.com/Dave to claim it. All right. So looking back at that whole process too, and like you said, it was a long road back. And even when you got to like a positive state, right? Almost the embarrassment of what happened, right? Really just kind of kept you from getting on stages and wanting to be out there public. But when you look back at that whole experience, what's the most important lesson you take from it?
Ooh, there are so many. And there's so many that I've pulled forward in how we operate companies today. One thing I'm really proud that we did is defaulting to transparency across the company. Like there are very few surprises for people in companies we get involved in, because I truly believe you build better teams with just open transparency. Where are financials at? Where's growth at? What's our cash at? Things like that I think go a very, very, very long way to building resilient teams that can weather crazy shit. One of the lessons that I pulled forward, though, is I run the financials of our companies very differently today. Probably not a surprise, but like much, much stronger discipline on how we run our P&L, how we monitor our cash flow. We went almost a year of operating Rocket Owl, whereas like if we did not find enough revenue or grants or other things on a bi-weekly basis, like we would meet payroll and we would immediately start the hunt of how do we close enough money or how do we find enough money to meet payroll in 2 weeks. And it was like a 10-day shot clock every single time. We did that for almost a year. And so a lot of what I took away from that is just how to better manage cash in companies, how to better manage monetization. Really quickly got over a lot of the hangups I'd had on different monetization models like display ads and interstitials in the gaming and mobile space are huge and undervalued. So yeah, it's a lot of the discipline, the communication, and how you choose whether or not a company should continue to bet. I'm way better today, and I've lived through way more experiences of like being more proactive, that you don't overextend. You always you can push pretty hard to the limit, but there's a point where you also reevaluate and restructure the company proactively that gives you more runway, more opportunity to kind of make big bets. And I say it often, but like when you're in fundraising mode, the deal is not done until the cash is in the account. I don't care what's been signed. I don't care what people have promised you. Like you don't stop fundraising. You don't stop talking to new investors. You don't stop taking term sheets until the actual cash is cleared, because too often now in 20 years since that, or 15 years since then, I have seen companies die on payment terms and transfers and other things that just didn't happen. And I would love to say it's rare, but it's not as rare as it should be.
Wow. Okay. Very, very important lesson. Okay. And then you said you're an angel in what was it, 50 plus companies?
Something between 40 and 50. Yeah.
Okay. How important, like, because you went through some crazy stuff very early on in a business career. How important do you think that is to your success as an angel investor?
So it's interesting. There's kind of 2 generations of angel stuff that I can look at in my own world. And like one is like pre-coaching and one is post-coaching. Pre-coaching felt a lot more like gambling. In the standard stuff, like try and bet on the person. We've had a few that have gone super, super well. The vast majority go nowhere. Once I started getting into more building the community and more of the active coaching, I think almost every investment we've made in the last 18 months, 24 months has been into a company that we're actively involved in on a coaching side. And maybe not surprisingly, but like those have performed a lot better than everything else we've done in the past. And I think that's largely just due to having way deeper insight into the state of the business, the customers, the founders, the team, and making more informed decisions than what you can get to in a typical diligence cycle of like 2 to 4 weeks. And what's been helpful is when you have a bit more of an active relationship is like being able to share lessons learned and share, here are the landmines to watch out for. Here's what I've learned scaling a product company, scaling a services company, scaling a SaaS company. Like there's a lot of things that we have run face first into that is helpful to be able to help others avoid at this point.
Okay. Wow. So that's interesting. So now, since you've been doing the coaching, vast majority of your investments are to companies that you're actively involved in coaching. So therefore, not only do you have much deeper insight into who the founder is, what the real challenges are, what the real state of the company is, but then you actually can pull these different levers and use your own expertise to impact the success of the company through your coaching.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I take it you've seen a dramatic increase in the results since that switching that model?
Yeah, it's been keep on the timeline on a lot of this stuff is like 7 to 10 years. So it's hard to call the shots on all of this at this point, but like for where the state of the investments are at, where the state of the companies are at, it is noticeably improved since we shifted to primarily investing in companies that we're kind of actively involved in coaching and supporting.
All right. So as you mentioned, you've been an entrepreneur and in this space and active in business for 27 years?
Unfortunately,
like that.
Yes.
Okay. So at this point in your career, right, with the successes that you've had and what you've built and kind of what you're doing now, what excites you most about being in business today?
I think right now is one of the most exciting times we've ever seen to build a company. Like the amount of impact you can have and the speed you can do it is absolutely insane. I also think entrepreneurship and business is kind of the single greatest personal development path you can go on in life, because nothing will be more humbling than trying to scale a company or a product against the whole planet. I love the community. I love being able to work with people who are ambitious and exciting. I mean, through the community, there's something we do a couple times a month. We open our whole home to founder drop-in, and we just have people come here and co-work. We've got one going on today. I'm just seeing people come by and drop in. But like the community and the ambition of people that want to build is probably the most fun I have in this space. We set a pretty ambitious goal when we launched FounderLink as the community, which was to help 1,000 founders hit their first $1 million in revenue. And we're actively tracking it. We're pushing towards that metric. And the idea there is if we do that, the community will help generate $1 billion of economic activity for people. And I think that would be a pretty cool story, legacy, impact to be a major contributing factor for.
And how'd you get involved in working with Dan Martell?
So many different paths. When we launched ProPet software 15 years ago, my team applied for a social media contest that Dan was running on Clarity.fm when he launched that. We won, and that got us time with Dan as a growth advisor way back when. Since then, we've kind of been in and out of each other's world at different times. When he launched his elite coaching program 4 years ago, I was in a stage where I was really looking for some different support on how to scale and what we could do at Iversoft at the time to kind of go to the next level. We got connected through that. He was the one that pushed me to get into the coaching because I was complaining about how stupid the coaches were on the internet. And so kind of just reignited a lot of the like friendship and back and forth then. And then he reached out a couple months ago when they've been running like crazy at this Martell Ventures portfolio of companies and said, hey, we're looking for some support. We got a lot of companies going fast. They need more hands-on support for helping scale their teams, helping scale their go-to-market and figure stuff out. Are you interested in coming to partner? I said, we'll see. Ended up spending a bunch of time in Kelowna and been building together since, which has been awesome.
Okay, awesome. All right. And so, Graeme, when you look back at kind of this whole journey from starting as a kid, not even knowing what you're doing, just that you're doing it, and this whole evolution of you as a founder, as an entrepreneur, and all these crazy up and downs you've had, and then winding up where you are with so much success, looking back at your whole journey, what's been the best part of it for you?
This will be kind of the cheesy answer, but like the best part is the community, friends, and social ecosystem we've created along the way. It's kind of insane to look back on, but after doing this for 2.5 decades, like the amount of friends that I have that have done insane things, that have done unicorn companies, that have created products and things that have genuinely like changed the world in some way. And being able to, on any given weekday, hang out with a room full of people that are all inspiring and all challenging each other to do the next thing and have a bigger impact and supportive kind of no matter what, has been incredible. It's a little bit like seeing behind the matrix, right? Once you understand what's possible for scale, for ambition, for kind of finance, it really, really, really changes how you view the world. I just consider it such a like privilege and a cool opportunity to be able to get to hang out with people that inspire me every day and be part of a community that is building better stuff for the future.
Love that. Okay. And Graeme, if people want to find out more about your coaching, about your founders group or the other work that you're doing, what's the best way people can find you online?
Yeah. Everything is at graemebarlow.com, Graeme, barlow.com or founderlink.com. I'm Graeme Barlow on every single social platform. And honestly, spend a lot of my time connecting with incredible people. So would love to connect with more people. We have a incredible bank of free resources inside of FounderLink. Literally every financial template, growth template, go-to-market template we have created for any one of our companies is accessible there for anyone in the community. We host a open coaching call every single month for all community members. So if you're stuck, if you're struggling, if you have big questions on what you want to do next and you're scaling anywhere from 0 to 10 million in revenue, would love to see people in the community. Application is pretty straightforward at founderlink.com.
And we will link all that in the show notes for everyone. All right. Well, Graeme, thank you so much for taking the time to be here and sharing all this incredible wisdom from your journey with our listeners. We greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.